I don't think it would be a surprise to most of you if I said that animals on farms here in the UK are being neglected and abused in the worst ways possible, and that that's absolutely standard practice. If you're already aware of this, then there's a possibility that at some point you'll look down at your plate and you'll realise that there's no reason for you to continue to consume animal products. At least that's what happened to me after a challenging conversation with a friend. But for the people who make a living off of the backs of the animals, that's a nightmare scenario. So what are they doing to try and prevent that from happening? Consider the two different narratives that you're told about animal farming. The first is that it's something we've been doing for thousands of years. There's nothing wrong with it. Farmers love their animals and they know how to take care of the land sustainably. The other narrative is that what we're doing is torture at a mass scale. We give animals short and horrible lives, exploit their reproductive systems, and chop them up for consumption. We don't need to do this, it's making us sick, and it's reached a scale where it's deforested most of the planet and is poisoning our oceans and atmosphere. Which idea is easier to swallow? And also consider who's promoting each idea and what resources they have backing them. We Balanced was an ad campaign created by the AHDB, which is the Agriculture and Horticulture Development Board. It was funded by a combination of a levy taken from farmers and government funding coming from taxpayers. The goal of this ad campaign was to keep people who are already consuming meat and dairy to continue doing so, and prevent more people from eliminating or reducing animal products from their diet. So the message was really about reassurance. The campaign made weak points in favour of meat and dairy consumption, such as claiming that it's a natural source of the important vitamin B12. But in actuality, almost all farmed animals are supplemented with vitamin B12. They don't get enough naturally from their diets, so to call this a natural source is really a stretch. We can easily get vitamin B12 from a supplement pill or from fortified foods, and it's found in almost any multivitamin. So wanting to get this vitamin is not a great reason to put an animal into a slaughterhouse or to take a calf from her mother so that we can drink the milk instead. But for campaigns like this to succeed, they don't need to make exceptionally strong points, because they're trying to reassure people of something that they already have an interest in wanting to believe, which is that what they're doing is perfectly fine and acceptable and justified. Most people already believe the three N's of normalization, that using animals for food is normal, natural, and necessary. And when I talk to people about what's happening, they often have the attitude that it is what it is, and we're powerless to change anything. But if you're the one who wants to continue benefiting from the system, then that's really motivated reasoning. The fact is that both at an individual level and a societal level, what we do to animals is a choice, not a necessity. Some people believe that because we've been eating animals for a very long time, it must be a part of our biology that we can't live without. But this is not what the clinical evidence tells us, and that's why the World Health Organization, the NHS, and the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics all agree that a vegan diet is suitable for all stages of life, and it even comes with key health benefits such as a lower risk of cardiovascular disease. Pseudoscientific diets like paleo are based on the idea that we need to eat the same way as our ancestors, but this isn't real evolutionary science. We didn't evolve to consume the most optimal diet for longevity. We evolved to consume what was available to us and try and survive short term. And the example of milk perfectly demonstrates that the idea that we need to consume these products is not based on scientific fact, but a combination of cultural norms and deliberate industry propaganda. Because we're told that to grow up strong and healthy and to have good bones, we need to consume milk. This is despite the fact that for the vast majority of human history, we never consumed milk from other species. And most of the world is actually lactose intolerant. But besides defending their own products and promoting them as a necessity, the industry also creates fear, uncertainty, and doubt about the alternatives. Vegan meats, milks, and cheeses are now put into the nebulous category of ultra-processed foods, and health concerns about these types of foods are nearly reaching the level of a moral panic. A study from the University of Sao Paulo and Imperial College London looked at the relationship between consuming ultra-processed plant-based foods and health outcomes, and they found that these foods are bad for you. The abstract of the article mentioned plant-based meat as an example of an ultra-processed plant-based food, and media reporting on the issue focused on that as the key example. But actually, plant-based meat only made up 0.2% of the calories looked at in the study. And it wasn't correlated with any of the negative health outcomes that they found. It was high-fat, high-sugar foods such as cake and biscuits which were causing those negative health outcomes. And by the study's strange definitions, these could be called plant-based, even if they contained dairy or eggs. Nonetheless, the headlines focused on attacking vegan foods. And there's two reasons why campaigns like this happen. The first is deliberate industry intervention through bodies such as the so-called Centre for Consumer Freedom and other dodgy outfits who try and push such ideas. The other is, even if it's not that clear-cut, anti-vegan headlines have an inherent mass appeal because people don't want to believe that using animals for food is both cruel and unnecessary. Greenwashing. To produce the same amount of protein, if you're farming cows for beef, compared to farming peas, you require 48 times more land, and you'll emit 90 times more greenhouse gas emissions, carbon dioxide equivalent. There's broad consensus amongst climate scientists that we need to urgently switch away from animal farming because of the devastating impact it has in terms of deforestation, habitat loss, land use change, water pollution, freshwater consumption, and atmospheric pollution. So how does the industry defend itself from these credible scientific claims? Increasingly, regenerative agriculture is being promoted as an alternative to conventional methods. This means feeding animals solely on pasture rather than growing crops like corn and keeping animals on feedlots. Advocates claim that this can sequester carbon back into the soil, but any sequestration is vastly outweighed by methane emissions produced by ruminant animals themselves. And actually, feeding them just grass requires more land, they grow more slowly, and live longer before they're sent to be slaughtered, and therefore they consume more water and emit more methane. We don't have enough land on Earth to do this type of farming. Already, most of the Earth's surface is used either for grazing or growing feed that's fed to animals. On the other hand, a study from Oxford University, which is the most comprehensive look into the relationship between food and climate, found that we could reduce the amount of farmland we need to feed all of us by 3/4 if everyone adopted a fully plant-based diet. We're constantly being encouraged to eat locally, and this is promoted as a climate solution. But according to our World in Data, only 2% of the climate impact of our food is caused by transportation. The vast majority is inherent in the production of the food itself. Nonetheless, the national animal farming industry has managed to demonize important foreign produce. All the while, pigs and chickens here in the UK are being fed soya that's grown in deforested regions of Brazil, which used to be Amazon rainforest. But even if the industry are able to muddy the waters, when it comes to a complicated topic like environmental science, how could they possibly defend themselves when it comes to the clear violations that they commit against the animals themselves? That's where humane washing comes in. The industry uses a variety of labelling standards such as free range, organic, Red Tractor approved, and RSPCA assured. The RSPCA is the oldest and largest animal charity, and they claim that the animals on farms assured by their scheme are kept at the very highest standards of welfare. But in reality, illegal abuse and neglect is commonplace even on certified farms. Inspections only have to happen once a year, and these are pre-arranged, so farmers can easily cover up any illegal activity before the inspector arrives. A groundbreaking undercover investigation conducted by Animal Rising went into 45 assured farms in the UK, and they found 280 instances of illegal abuse and neglect. But Actually, some of the most horrific practices that happen on the farms are completely legal and permitted under the scheme. And when they went into pig farms and chicken farms, they found animals dying on their face, suffering from diseases and injuries. They went into trout and salmon farms. They found animals being eaten alive by ocean lice and swimming around in nets, trapped in their own feces. And half of those fishes died before they were even taken out of the water. But what's actually permitted under the scheme? A documentary by the activist Joey Carvstrong exposed the use of gas chambers to kill pigs. Pigs are lowered into carbon dioxide gas, which suffocates them and burns their insides by acidifying the soft tissues in their body, causing them extreme agony. In the egg industry, half of the chicks that hatch are male and half are female. The males can't lay eggs themselves, and they grow too slowly to be economically valuable in terms of being used for meat. So the males are killed as soon as they hatch. They're either crushed up in a maceration machine, or they're suffocated with gas. And for those females, they'll have their beaks mutilated, because when they're sent to a farm, if this wasn't done, then they might peck each other to death from the stress of being kept in a barn with thousands of other birds, and each only having an A3 size piece of paper worth of space. And in the dairy industry, cows are made pregnant every year. They're restrained by humans and manipulated with pipettes to put semen inside them. She'll be pregnant for 9 months and then give birth to her calf, at which point the calf will be taken away from her, because humans want to consume as much of the milk as possible. And if that calf's male, he won't grow up to make milk himself, so he'll be killed as a calf. For the females, once they reach around 6 years old, their milk production declines, and they'll too be sent to the slaughterhouse. The shocking investigations into what happens on RSPCA-assured farms led to Chris Packham, Caroline Lucas, and Brian May resigning from key roles in the organisation, but still they haven't dropped this scheme. The RSPCA actually make money on every product sold which features their label. So rather than standing against animal exploitation, they're directly benefiting from it. And having such a large animal charity back these forms of farming just further normalizes the idea that it's acceptable. The root cause of the problem is that as humans we've decided that it's okay to treat other animals as property. So long as animals have the status of commodities, their welfare will never be respected, because why would we prioritize their welfare over our profit if we think it's okay to chop them up and put them in a sandwich? So what can we do about this? It seems like the industry have everything on their side. They have money, they have the backing of governments, they have the support of the media, cultural norms are on their side, they've even got the animal charities on their side, or at least some of them. But what can we do? Well, the thing is, they don't have the truth on their side. And once you know the truth, it's very hard to forget. At some point, willful ignorance is no longer an option. And then you have a choice to make. Do you want to cultivate your apathy and deny your agency? Or do you want to empower yourself and take action? And the first thing to do, of course, is to go vegan, which means boycotting animal exploitation, not using animals for food, clothing, cosmetics, entertainment, or any other purpose. Because this means you're no longer funding the torture and the slaughter. And it sets an example. It demonstrates to people that what we do to animals is not necessary and that we can take a stand against it. And going vegan is just the first step, because that just means you're no longer being the problem. But to be part of the solution, advocate for these animals in the way that you would want someone to advocate for you if you were in their position. Speak up whenever, however, and wherever you can. Thank you so much.